All right, we're recording.
Okay, good. Great. Okay. So we are talking about WordPress tonight. Oh, do we gonna do our intros, right? I got to go back a little bit.
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that.
No problem.
I jumped right into me. Yeah, so this is all about getting started with WooCommerce. It is a, well, high level with some detail, all about the e-commerce tool that's the most popular with WordPress, which is WooCommerce. So we're going to be talking about that tonight. We'll have our speaker introductions. I'll talk to you a little bit about WooCommerce on an introductory level, jump into demonstration. Then we have our wonderful guest speaker, Judith Ann, talking about her real world examples, and then we'll close it on up. I am Peter Ingersoll. I live in South Windsor, and I've been using WordPress for quite a long time now. Used to work in a tool called Cold Fusion, and then somebody who came to work for me showed me WordPress. I had seen it actually years earlier, but never used it. There were a few other things, and then by that point, it was getting to be the mature WordPress that it is now. That was around version 2.8, 2.9, I think. So it was a while ago. So it has been my tool of choice, and I've decided to concentrate on that. I've used the tool primarily for my marketing communication work in organizations, and then have basically come to make a career of it working out of my home. I work for a number of nonprofits and for some actually some e-commerce, but some B2B type organizations. So yeah, WordPress has been very good to me. Judith, you want to come back to who you are when you present?
No, let's just do it now and get it over with. All right. Well, I am Judith Ann Kirk. I am a professional organizer and productivity coach. I have a degree in business administration and 25 years being a professional organizer. I am, since 1995, I've been a member of NAPO, which is the National Association of Productivity and Organizing Consultants. And I'm also the founder of the chapter here in Connecticut. I've been a WordPress fan for many, many years after I got tired of having to pay my web designer $50 just to add a comma or change the spelling or something. And I like, the heck with this, I'm going to do it myself. Now I'm a WordPress user. I'm also a consultant for Evernote and for Microsoft Outlook, and I live in Plainville. There you go.
I'm an Evernote user myself. Okay, so today we're talking about WooCommerce. So in WordPress, the tool that we like best for developing websites, and as we've said in any number of these meetups, you know, just the popularity of where WordPress is and the value and the extensibility and all, it's just a great tool that we've, you know, come to really know and love. Well, a big part of anybody who's building websites might be getting into e-commerce, selling products and services online. So you look at what are the options or the choices for WordPress website managers, developers, designers, implementers, whatever words you like, but people use WordPress. And the number one choice that you hear is WooCommerce. There's other options that you can have. You know, there's BigCommerce.com. BigCommerce is a hosted service that links into WordPress, but all the commerce stuff is done on their site. There are plugins specific to certain types of selling, like Easy Digital Downloads, which is specific to selling digital products. There are membership plugins that have a payment option. There are simple payment gateways and forms where you can maybe sell one or two products pretty easily, or it's just about, you know, buy the product and take the payment. Maybe it's a PayPal transaction and so on. Other other WordPress plugins along those lines that have different levels of where they can take payment for a product or service. Then there's Shopify. That would be its own place for selling. There are people who might run a WordPress site and then the Shopify site just for selling. Of course, you could sell on Etsy, eBay, Facebook Market, and on and on. But the WordPress environment we look at WooCommerce, and because it's the plugin that really turns WordPress into a complete e-commerce solution. You could sell all kinds of product, services, download, subscriptions, memberships. You've got that full shopping cart experience that is part of the plugin. You have the whole order management, inventory management. There's ways of applying coupons and sales, variable pricing, grouping, options to products, all the tracking and management. And this number that I just found today of 93.7% of all WordPress e-commerce websites use the WooCommerce plugin, which is pretty significant. It's clearly, it is a very, very well supported tool. It is part of the WordPress core group. It's owned and managed by Automatic, which is the WordPress.com company and the primary supporter of WordPress. So what's great about WooCommerce as a plugin? Well, it works. It's part of WordPress and it works like WordPress. Products are posts. They're actually a custom post type. It's designed to work with most themes, although sometimes there's things that have to be done, and without even getting into the categories, the topic of styling and all. But for the most part, WooCommerce will work. There's sometimes a couple of snippets of code that need to make it work. It includes several widgets right out of the box that are part of that initial plugin that gives you full, your whole shopping cart experience. It now, and this is a really interesting time, and Ray, you'll probably agree, but the whole, with the block editor, WooCommerce now, instead of using widgets, they also have all the WooCommerce product blocks, which I'm yet to experience myself. So that's it's keeping up with the whole WordPress editing environment. It's very extensible with a large number of plugins, and there's a large market of plugins. So if you're looking to sell something, you could probably find something that's going to make WooCommerce work the way you need it to work for you. So is WooCommerce free? Well, like a lot of things in WordPress, yes and no. Automatic is a company that is a for-profit company. They do make money, and they make money because of the advanced features that many people need. So that a lot of the additional plugins, the extensions to WordPress, have a price tag to them. Some of them can get pretty significant, and they're subscriptions now. So you're paying an annual fee from $49.79, $99, $199, $299, depending on what it is, for that. And I'm wondering if I can bring, just so you can get a quick view of this. Did you just see a browser sneak on that screen?
No.
Okay, let me see if I can do this. But as you look into the environment and you're saying, hey, do I want to get into this and what can it do for me? I will show you. Should I copy this over? Of course, I dropped it behind my Zoom. There it is. You don't see
Maybe,
it.
maybe while you bring this up too, because I don't recall you covering this in another slide, but this might be a time to talk about it too, is that, I've had people come to me before, clients saying they want an e-commerce site. And a lot of times I slightly push back because I push back in everything, but I'm always like, well, why do you want an e-commerce site? And, usually they want to sell something. And I said, well, how are you going to get people to it? How are you going to get people to find your product? And just, again, e-commerce is just like any other website out there, of the marketing piece of it. So there's a free point of WooCommerce and WordPress in general. So that's nice. You get to keep more money in your pocket when you sell a product. That's great. But the bad part is you are then responsible for promoting your product. So, again, if someone's just starting off today, I do push back sometimes to people say, well, why don't you put it on eBay or Amazon or Etsy
Right.
or whatever? Yes, you're going to have to pay a cut to them, which most people hate to pay a cut to anybody. But
Yeah.
guess what? How many people go on Amazon every day versus on your website? So just another consideration of, especially when you're starting off, everything we're talking about here is we're open source people and we're all that. But sometimes from a business standpoint, it may not be your best business decision when you first begin. Later you may want to, and it's not an either or thing too. Sometimes you may want to start with one thing in Amazon and then have your other store elsewhere in WooCommerce. So.
Absolutely, and that's a great point, because there's a lot of people will look at an Etsy and eBay, a Facebook as their business platform, and that whole issue of having control, and all of a sudden they change the way they do something, and now you have to totally modify the way you're doing business is a big deal. I think you're seeing the extension screen right now.
Yep.
Okay, so this just gives you an idea of, and we'll get into this, but when you're looking at, in terms of, the reason I thought this was valuable in terms of pricing is, there's 199, there's a 249 for WooCommerce booking. So using the e-commerce engine, but for doing some booking things. But then you'll see that, the extension for PayPal is free. PayFast, which I don't, that's another payment, is free. And then we go on to now, there are different levels and different things that you look to do. And you can look at this and you say, oh, there's 413 results. And this is just WooCommerce extensions on the WooCommerce, in the WooCommerce environment. So in terms of its extensibility, it is pretty significant. And by the way, the woocommerce.com site is very comprehensive. There's a lot of things there that we can, that you can refer to, and we'll come back to. Okay, so now, so if you look at, okay, so you may want to sell something. Well, what are the types of things that you can sell? And WooCommerce is pretty much based on there's six product types that are included, and then there are other types that can be added by extensions. And these 6 product types are the simple, which is, think of it as a mug. You ship it. It's an actual product, and maybe that mug is just, here's my WordPress mug. It comes with one type, so that's a simple product. A grouped product is just basically a collection of other products, collection of simple products. And what the group product does is it allows you to bring them up kind of together in a screen. A virtual product is no shipping, so it could be a service. So if you are selling an hour of your time for a Zoom conference, you can sell that as a product, but there's nothing being shipped. There's no shipping costs or anything going along with that. There are external affiliate links. So say you're selling a product that is a piece of software where you get a kickback, you get an affiliate reimbursement for selling that product, sending it off the site. So you could do that through WooCommerce, which is setting up and then having a link so that when the person goes to buy, they go to that site. There's a variable product, which is kind of the cool product in terms of, like, a t-shirt that comes in colors and sizes. So you have a product that has these different variables. And then again, through the extensions, you have things like subscriptions and bookings and things like that. So now comes, if we're ready, and if there's any, let's see if there's any questions so far. And in fact, I do want to get into a demo where I'm going to start right from loading the plugin. If there's anything that anybody wants us to cover specifically, now would be a great time to kind of speak up and ask questions on that.
Peter, is anyone familiar with a site called Gumroad?
I am, yeah.
Gosh, I know the name, but I don't.
So could Woocommerce take the place of Gumroad? If I were selling, I'm selling digital content.
Yeah.
I think
Woocommerce can take the place of Gumroad?
Yeah, I think the one thing though with Gumroad though, you'd have to look at the extensions to WooCommerce. My understanding, I've just used Gumroad for one client where they were selling, I'm trying to think if it was video. And I thought Gumroad was actually, the video was stored on Gumroad and they were hosting it there. So my understanding was that Gumroad was not just doing the sales part, but Gumroad was also doing the, kind of unlocking the product, if you will, for the person. Which I think you can, like EDD, that other one that Peter mentioned, Easy Digital Downloads, has something like that as well. So you can kind of protect your digital content if that makes sense.
Yeah, I believe that's how they do it, right? They do all that support, but they're charging 3.5 to 3.6% of the sale. I just wondering out loud. That's all.
Yeah, that's a good question.
All right, I'm almost there. Because when I was pulling up the other thing, I accidentally closed the window I wanted open. So, Judith, Ann, did I miss anything in terms of the overview that you think is important prior to the demos that we're going to do?
No, most of that stuff I don't even know anything about, Peter, because it was already installed on my site. So,
Sure.
and I've never used another product, so I couldn't compare it to anything else.
Got it. All right, we are definitely almost there. Okay, do you see a puppy?
We do. Oh.
Okay. And you see, did that screen change to who we are?
Yep.
Great, okay. Good. I wanted to make sure I didn't have a second window hidden somewhere below. Because Zoom is great. You could choose from all the different windows that are all over the place and then realize I have way too many open right now. So thanks for bearing with us. So the kind of scenario I was thinking here is this idea that instead of saying, okay, I'm going to build a new WordPress site with WooCommerce, which you certainly can do. There might be people who say, I've got a website and now I want to add an e-commerce aspect to it. So I'm going to show two things. I'm going to show a site that doesn't have WooCommerce on it, wasn't really designed for it, but yet because of the way this theme works, and we'll do a brief thing on themes themselves, it will work, and WordPress often works within existing themes. And then another site that has been designed a little bit more specific to e-commerce and to the WooCommerce site. So, I just pulled up this sample site. This is an example of, they're selling a service, but now we want to, or they have a service, call us, that type of thing. But maybe they want to start selling, mugs and T-shirts with pictures of puppies on it. Not that our samples are going to be that, but you'll get the idea in terms of selling products. So they go and they look and they say, hey, we want to have WooCommerce as our. We use WordPress. Now we're going to add WooCommerce because everyone tells me it's what I should. So should do. So I'm going to add WooCommerce, and like any plugins, we go to add plugins, add new. You can search for WooCommerce. This is coming off of the WordPress repository. Install now. So this is a site that's now pulled that down. Now, one thing to show is this site has very few pages. This is I'm now looking at the back end of the website. I'm looking at the pages that are there. I've now pulled in the WooCommerce plugin. It's not activated yet. I'm going to activate it. So now that it's activated, okay, there are different things that happen. And I think because I've already installed it once on this site, you'll often get a wizard that walks you through. You can decide to use the wizard. Basically, it pre-fills in things like your company's address and things like that, you know, what type of business you have, which are all the things that you can set up in the settings. While the page is active, I mean, while the plugin WooCommerce is active, right now there's no products, there's no pages to use that information. So if you come into WooCommerce, you now have, after installing and activating the plugin, you now have two new menu choices. There's the WooCommerce menu choice, and then there's the product menu choice. So WooCommerce is all of it's your primary dashboard. Okay, here's where the setup is. So I'm going to skip the store setup right now. And now I'm coming basically to my basic, my front end, right? There's no product. Normally, if you come right into the dashboard, you're going to see how much have you been selling, the graphs and things that are all there. There's nothing there right now. But like many things in WordPress, you'll see there's a settings choice, so WooCommerce settings. And here's where a lot of the setup of your site happens. So this is where, you know, you would put in your store address, and we're not going to go through every last one of these things because most of them are pretty self-explanatory. When you load WooCommerce, you come in here, you start seeing, okay, you know, the choices that you have, and now it's the main one to start with under settings, your store, the things that have to do with your product page. And one thing to get used to in WooCommerce is the fact that the settings are under tabs, and then below the tabs, you get to a level of detail. You know, so, you know, we won't go into the details of these things right now, but under products, and there's inventory, and then do you want to enable something called enable stock management? Enabling stock management then adds things to your products. It says, okay, what's the SKU number? How many products do you have? Do you want to be alerted when your product level is low? Things like that. But say you don't have stock. Say you're only selling, you know, virtual products or services. Then you might not need to worry about stock management. And you can, by unchecking this, it gives less choices when you go to add in products. So you've got all kinds of configuration that happens in this area here. One of the things that I want to go to is, give me a second here. Okay. Sorry. So you have the settings, which is how you set up and configure. Under status, you get all kinds of, you know, kind of helpful information, probably more than you need to look at, but it tells you, you know, if things aren't working right. This is kind of a nice way to show you a lot of the detail for those who are more into the details of the configuration that will be under status. The reason I'm here is because I'm going to tools, and then I'm going to go to something called, where you add the, where is it? WooCommerce transition. Sorry, look right at create default WooCommerce pages. A lot of times when you just install it and you go through the wizard, these will be created. But I showed you there were no pages. When I create the pages, and this is pretty important. Now when I come back into pages, I now have new pages that have been created by WooCommerce, those pages being the cart, the checkout, the things that you're used to when you go to buy a product. The My Account for when somebody is, your shopping page. So these pages have been added. I'm going to look at my shop, and it's within the same theme, so it's using some of the colors and all. Right now, there are no products here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to show you. And Ray, I don't know if I actually just recently learned this. Under the Products tab, and we'll be spending more time in products, because once you get things set up, then you're just managing products. What you could do is you can import sample data. And the sample data is actually in the WordPress plugin. So if you unzip the plugin locally, so if you download, so if you don't know, when you have plugins that you load onto your website, you can also download them directly to your desktop. And then that particular plugin I've downloaded here is WooCommerce 4.2.0, and then when you unzip it, I've got a WooCommerce folder, and under there is something called sample data, and I can go in and import the CSV file, and once I do that, I'm just going to import that data. It's going to want to map things, and since this is kind of their default data, I don't have to worry about like another spreadsheet. And you could do this. You could, if you have a list that's, say you've got 1,000 products, you're running a big store somewhere else, you can import that into WooCommerce using a mapping from a CSV file, a comma.
Separated out.
Thank you. I'm so used to saying, right, saying comma delimited. No, there's a D in there. So you can put that in and import it. And there are other import tools too. So now I now have all of these products that have been imported for me. And if I now go to the this product page and reload it, these are my sample products, which is neat. This is a neat way to if you wanted to just experiment with this, and you could create a shop page and not show it anywhere on your website and just experiment with it. You can make it private, so you're working with it. And if you wanted to use this, maybe you use local, the local by Flywheel, and you wanted to just play with it. Here's some sample data that you can use. But I made the point of saying there's no link to the shop here, right? So I'm going to go right to the next. Say I was like, oh, these are all my products, and I want to sell them. So now you would go. Anybody have a guess where I would go for that? No. So under Appearance and Menus, under my main menu, now you can see my newest pages have been added. So I've got a shop page. I can add that to my menu. When I save it, and now come here to my website, I now have that shop choice because I've added to the menu on my home page now because I've added that menu. Now, one thing you might see is a shopping cart icon or something right on the menu. A lot of this is theme driven, and again, too big of a we're going to do a meetup just on aspects of the theme. This particular theme that I'm using, one of the things that's kind of nice is if I go to the customizer, and when you load WooCommerce, you will get additional fields, different additional things in your customizer. Go to customize, and if I go to my primary header in this one, let's pick the wrong. If I go to my primary menu, this particular theme has a last menu choice, and right now the example I used a button, download app, but I can, because I'm running WooCommerce, I have WooCommerce choices, and I've got now a shopping bag or shopping cart link that I can use. So I'm going to publish that because I've now turned this site into a shopping cart, and this is the type of thing where now that will be updated with the number of products as I buy them. So I've taken a regular site and I've added Woocommerce plugin, and now in effect I've got a place where I can sell products. So yes, I've loaded sample product here, and here they all are. Now, as I mentioned earlier, keep track of the time. Their products work a lot like posts and pages, because they are in fact a custom post type. And in WordPress, that has a specific meaning where it is a record in the database that has, you know, the title and the content, but then additional fields that might be associated with it. But it works a lot like posts and pages. And specific to products, you'll see things that you should recognize, categories and tags, for example. So you can categorize products, you can tag products. When you look at the list in the admin, you know, you can see additional fields that are, because this is an e-commerce site, you can see the categories that, in this case, in the sample data, and I can show you very quickly. It works very similar to post categories, right? So you can add additional categories. Maybe we want to add a category called artwork. Maybe I'm going to sell dog photos, right? And if I add that, I don't want to make that a child of anything. So it is, you know, like clothing as accessories and hoodies. So again, very similar to the taxonomy, we call it, of categories. I've now added a new category to my product types. The tags that you might add, in this case, they might be things like, hey, this is a site for dogs, and you start getting breed specific. So you have t-shirts and mugs and things like that, but now this is the schnauzers and the terriers and the Akitas and so on. That you might want to do that through tags. So somebody's saying, well, what do you got that are all about Akitas? So again, same type of thing with categories and tags that you are hopefully useful under the normal posts. So looking at the products here, I'll try to keep going back and forth to the pages. I'm gonna try to do something here where go to products and say I want to add a new product. And maybe I just added something called artwork. So I'm going to say, I'm going to take a chance here that I can find it, because I did not do this and I just said the word Akita photo. If you look right here and adding a product, again, like a post, you have a title, and then you have two types of areas to fill in for the description of a product. You have the regular content section, which you would consider the long content. So this would be, I'm going to call it some lore on it. You know, this would be your longer descriptive text. Not even going to bother getting it. I'm just going to get it. Say I had this text that I wanted. Okay. That might be the text that you want that is the more descriptive part of your product. Your short description, that's the snippet that's kind of first seen. It's used in different places, and again, themes. And then when you get into having control over WooCommerce, and a little bit beyond this discussion, is there are different tools that you could use that gives you even greater control of creating your own product pages down to exactly where you place everything. So for example, I use Page Builder, Beaver Builder. There is a WooCommerce theme builder that allows me to do that. While I have that, they're now starting to build that even into core with the blocks and things. So this ability to say, I don't like the way they place this over that, I want to move it. A site that I built a couple of years ago, I had to do all of that by changing the code and the templates. It's sort of the same type of thing as when you have a child theme to a theme where you're putting in specific code. works the same way for WooCommerce. That's how you can change things, by changing the templates, the code behind it that tells everything. But now a lot of that functionality is being moved up front to these types of editors where you can, and now even just dragging and dropping and saying, I want this here, which is great. My short description, this is a lovely photo of an, okay. Now, this might be something that I'm going to say, I have my choices. Remember, I talked about the different choices. My simple product, my group product, the affiliate link, a variable product, and then the other two being the virtual and downloadable that you can just click, because you get different options. You wouldn't need a lot of options. If you click virtual, you don't get the options that you would get if it's a real product. So let's just say this is a simple product. So I'm choosing a simple product. And this is where you can start, again, you can see the boxes to fill in. And I'm going to sell this for $19.95. I don't have a sale price. I might want to have a sale price, and I might even go so far as to schedule that sale price for a certain thing. So as you get into it and you start saying, okay, so now I'm editing a product, I'm adding some information. I'm choosing a simple product. Here's the price. Oh, I could put a sale price in it, but maybe the sale price is the first week of next month. You know, I can pre-do that. Here's the inventory management. I have the inventory management box checked under settings. You saw it briefly. We didn't spend any real time on it. Maybe I want to add a SKU number. SKU number is part of inventory management if you're really getting down to the nitty gritty. If you don't, it'll default to like a product, an ID number. A lot of the same ways that your other pages work, where there's an ID number. So let's say I just want to, I don't know, just call it dog one. I don't know. Manage stock. If I put this in, then I can, if I check that, now I got choices. How much do I have? Do I want to allow people to back order? You know, this gets into a level of detail. Now, if I don't check that, I don't have those choices. So it's a nice way of kind of building up levels of detail in how you're managing product. Shipping, we can spend 2 hours just on shipping because of the way it works. But when you first start out, you know, you can get into the whole, like, I know exactly how much everything weighs. I'm going to use a particular service, postal service, UPS. I've got a customer who uses UPS but has to pay money for the extension that allows a live talk back and forth to the UPS under their account. So when you add up all the weights and you have the distance, it knows exactly how much to charge. That's not free. That is something that comes with a fee, but that is because they're selling, you know, they're selling across the country and people are paying the price that, you know, as opposed to, I have a friend who is selling things that might sell things at a fixed or even free, maybe free shipping because she built it into the cost of the product, in which case you don't have to worry about shipping nearly as much. Or it's like, okay, everything she sells fits into a postal priority service box, you know, one price ship. So, you know, you can get into things like that. You know, this idea that the customer that's UPS, I have to know the weight, the length, the width, the height. Those are all going into, you know, the calculation of shipping. It can get pretty complicated. Linked products gets into something kind of interesting, which is as you add things, you might say, okay, if I'm selling a product that is, you know, the 8x10, maybe I want to sell them the 2 feet by 3 feet, and I'm going to upsell the product. I'm talking artwork here, or whatever kind of upsell. Those can be, you can add those products. Product has to be added first, and then you can pull that product and put it in here. A cross sell is instead of an upsell, it's like, oh, when you buy that, you might want to buy these other products too. Attributes, will come back to that. This is especially when you get into specific variables. Advanced, okay, so purchase no, and WooCommerce is very nice. So here's the type of thing where you arrow over question mark, enter an optional note to send the customer after purchase. Part of the process is that that built into it is the whole email. Let the customer know that they've made the purchase. They get an email. You get a notification. So there's a whole email component, and you may have a product where you say it's a service, and you say, please, email me at this address. Whatever details you may want to include. Getting more options. This is basically WooCommerce saying you can buy more. You can buy more extensions to the site. Now, I was saying over here, if I look now on the right side of the screen, I added the category artwork. There's my category artwork. I mentioned the idea that I could put a tag called Akita because I'm adding a dog. And now, and I'm going to move this up. I don't know if you know this, but you're not locked into the way WordPress places things on a screen. You can move your screen around, or if you're always looking at something and they're like, I never use that, why is that even there? You can eliminate it, or reduce it, or even eliminate it by coming up to your screen options and turning things on and off. So it's just a handy little tip if you're not used to that kind of thing. So product image. Oh, I did load it. So the product image is the main image that you're going to see. See, these were some of the products that we loaded when we uploaded the sample data. I'm going to use this little tool where I can go out to Pixabay and I wonder if there's a picture of Nikita. Hope I didn't paint myself into too much. The beautiful dog. And say that's my artwork. Now I'm going to take that. I'm going to save that. Right now, this could be your media library. There's any number of ways that you would handle photos, but in this particular case, I'm adding this as my product image. In this particular case, it's the artwork, but if you had multiple views of something, different angles, you can add additional images through the product gallery. And that is this choice right here, the product gallery, add product gallery images. And that'll give you have a main image, and then you have supplemental or extra images where you see the thumbnail. That's what you would do through the gallery. Now I can
just jump in for a second there. So I'm thinking about, as you're doing this, like the one client I worked with who struggled the most with e-commerce, it wasn't the technical issues or anything. It was all the stuff that Peter just went through in terms of you really, you need to think about the product itself. Like you need good images. They had terrible images. They're all fuzzy and dark. I said, who's going to buy this? They didn't think through, and I'm still struggling with them. They didn't think through the shipping. They had this $3 bottle of thing, of sauce they want to sell, but the shipping is $3. I'm like, who's going to buy that? So it's, I think that's one of the issues here. I think WooCommerce itself, as you can see, it's a lot of just putting pieces into place for a product. But the hard part is if you're the business owner, or what's worse is if you're a developer like myself or Peter working with somebody else, you've got to think to ask all these questions, and ideally ask them once. So you're not going back and forth saying, do you ship to Alaska? Oh, you don't. Do you ship to Mongolia? No, that's the hard part, I think, is especially if you're new to this, or you're working with somebody who's new to e-commerce. I think that's the most difficult part. It's not the technology thing. It's thinking like an Amazon almost.
That is a great point, and for my big e-commerce client, that is where most of the time was spent. And a lot of the time was also spent because this particular client had a very specific way that he was used to seeing things and wanted it that same way. So there was so much customization, and at that time, that customization was done, as I mentioned earlier, through these templates. So instead of buying so for example, he did not want to have his products are in the thousands of dollars, so he doesn't bother with the .99 or anything like that. So everything's truncated. At that time, I needed to go and get code snippets to do that. He needed it. He wanted it. We talked it through. Now there's an option. To what decimal point do you want to show things? But it was all about that kind of thing. They ship basically to North America. They are not interested in shipping their 50-pound tool overseas for the fees that it would be. Never mind the fact that he wants to lock it into the market that he knows, and he knows these people, and he sells to the U.S. market. So that is a function there, but that's deciding, it's going in and going and saying, this is where I sell to. So in effect saying, we don't ship there. And then making choices that says, okay, and then when you're going to put your shipping information, you're going to use, say, US based versus, the province and the international shipping, that type of thing. But yeah, Ray, very, very good point on that. So right now I'm looking at a preview of this and showing you the types of things that we added. This particular theme is including the breadcrumbs, so home, artwork, Akita photo as a product. The 1995 that I put in there. This does have, you can buy multiple because it's a product. There's a checkbox that basically says, don't allow multiple products. Maybe it's just like you're selling an hour of time. You're not going to sell multiple hours through this. You would sell, different hours of time. My description that I entered is down here in the bigger description box. And again, by this layout, this is how it looks. So that is how to add a simple product. So if I publish that, and now I come back to my my shop, I now have this new product here. I've got the sorting that I have. It's under artwork. Now, what's interesting, what I haven't shown you here is then the ways that you can put in things like, okay, have take that category and now give me a choice to kind of click on it and decide which, where to go. And WooCommerce also uses what are called short codes. So maybe you put somewhere else, oh, go look at all of our Akita or all of our beanies or all of our, different products, by category. Sticking to the category editing, I think I could do this. Sometimes when you put in a product, you can't change it. I'm going to change this now from a simple to a variable product. Because now under attributes, I might want to have, well, you can add a custom attribute of the choices you have. Color and size are the most typical, and in fact, they're built in as defaults or available ones. Now, because I picked color, it's giving me the color choices, and you can add more. I'm actually not going to use this. I'm going to delete this. So I added that, but I'm going to let me just reload this. I think because I was still in add, it didn't give me delete because there's nothing to delete. So I'm going to change this again to a variable product. I am going to go into attributes. I'm going to go into a custom. I'm going to add that. And I'm going to call this dimensions. So the dimensions here would be, I want to make sure. Let me come back to this. Yeah. So 8 by 10, and then you add these and you separate them by types. 11 by 14. And Steve, what's another value? I'm going to 22 by 28. So if I save those attributes, I've done this backwards.
You have to set the attribute to say available for variations.
That's right. So
yeah, no, you can still do it. No, don't get rid of it.
Yeah, I don't need to do that.
Pull the drop down. If you want to vary the price for them, that's where you do variation.
That's where I do it. Thank you. So say this. Tell me again, because
it's good. Hover over dimensions to the right. Move over to the right. There's a little drop down. That's the thing that always trips me up. Now you click on use for variations. Save it.
This tripped me up before. Exactly.
Their user interface is a little wonky.
Yeah, that's a little way over there.
And now you can go in and create price variations.
Peter, before you go any farther,
Yeah.
when you did the variables, where did you get that symbol of that line going down
Above
The
the enter key.
between each one?
Yeah, so it is it's the pipe, which is it's the shift of the, is that the back? No, that's the forward slash, right? No.
Or yeah, above your enter key, usually there's a slash.
Yeah.
And then there's a straight line.
Ah, I see it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. All right, Ray, talk me through this. So
go back to
now,
what you were doing. Go to variations again.
Yeah, now I have to update this so it knows it's there.
Save those attributes. Yeah. I don't think you finished your variations thing, because what it'll try to do for you, so when he creates this, it'll try to create a blank variation. So you say, okay, here. It'll create all 3 of those. So now he has 3 variations he can then modify. So in this example, probably for each variation, probably what would vary would probably be price. So if you just click here, okay, the blue okay up there, I think.
Not sure why this is taking so long.
Click the blue okay. I think it's, yeah.
There we go. So
Now for each of these, you have a little drop down also next to them, or to the right. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So now this would be, it's in stock. And now we set a price that might be, now this might be the $12.95. This one would be $19.95. And this one would be $24.95. Let's see. This is probably, it becomes some of the most useful if you're selling type of thing, and also one of the kind of like, it's less intuitive than you would expect. But now, see, this is the magic. Automatically, that photo is between $12.95 and $24.95. Those are the prices I have. The option might be, okay, I want the 11 by 14. That's $19.95. Add that one to the cart. So thanks for bearing with me for that little hiccup, and Ray, I appreciate you walking me through that. But that's when you get into this idea of sizes, colors. In this case, I've added something called dimensions, which is specific. I'm adding it as a adding it as this attribute called dimensions. Those dimensions that I put in, I now have, okay, what are the variations for it? What goes along with those choices that you have? So that kind of covers.
Yeah, sorry, just interrupt there too. And you can have multiple attributes driving variation. So for example, he could have had, let's say there's another variation here, which was frame. So let's say he had wooden frames versus metal frames.
Perfect.
We put those 2 together. Now you're starting to have 2 times 3.
Yeah.
Variations. So that's where these things get a little bit crazy. I worked with a client where they had, I think we had 80 variations, because it was just all these 3 different variables together, and they kept multiplying out.
And that's a good point, because there are multiple ways of tackling them. So it might be, here's all my metal frame photos, and then you have the various, so you can manage it different ways depending on what makes the most sense. Or here are all my 8 by 10 photos, and here are now the frames that you have, that type of thing. So there's a lot of ways, and this is where, again, Ray, what you're saying, planning is very, very important. And then let's see, what else? So if I added so I've added that product. If say I add a new product, that might be dog training consulting. The same bunch of text here that and it might, so my short description, I drag my short description up here because it feels more natural for me. So here's my long description, which is in the general content area. The short description specific to might be That's funny.
Peter, your short description usually comes up where right underneath where the pricing is, whereas the long description's at the bottom of
Yeah.
the whole process.
Yeah, I'm just wondering why I can't edit it now. Is it because no, I haven't even told it what kind of product it is yet. Interesting. See how it's locked for me?
That's weird. Yeah.
I cannot type in that box right now. I'll come back to it. But say this is now a virtual product, and it's $100 because it is training, right? So I don't need any kind of inventory management. So I'm not checking any kind of inventory management. No linking. Let me publish this. See if I can't get that box back. Yeah, there we go. Okay, and then maybe the product image for this would be, you know, maybe that's me. It's not, but maybe. Right, so that's my main product image. If I want to preview that. Nope. Yeah. So now this is, and I didn't give it a category. Look, uncategorized. Dog training consulting. I'll help you train, you know, add to cart. I might decide, oh, well, wait a minute. I don't want them to add multiple choices. Enable this to only allow one of this item. That'll take that out. And then I want to add a new category called services.
So Peter, what if somebody wanted you for an hour, or maybe they want to book 2 hours or 4 hours? Would you still use a variable at that point? No, you'd use a multiple.
Well, that's up to you to decide if you want to offer. I would offer them as, if you knew that you would offer a 1, 2, and 3 hour consulting time, I would offer them as separate products, separate, simple products.
You can do them as variables. Yeah, I mean, the client I worked with was a tutor, so they had hours of tutoring, and that was the thing, that they had that broken out as the variables. So there was like,
yeah,
I'm sorry, prices were different.
Yeah, it's a variable product where now you have the attribute being time. But I meant not to allow like clicking 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, keep adding more product to it. But yeah, so in this case, let's see if we can do it real quick. And I want to give you time, Judith Ann, to show kind of some of the real world stuff. But
and she's going to cover virtual products too, so we can probably spend more time there looking at them as well.
where's that choice again? I never.
It's advanced.
See, even us experts.
You have us marked on simple product, not variable.
Thank you.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah.
Thank you. See, you're the expert here. Okay, save attributes. So that gives me now the variation choice, right? Use for variations, save attributes, variations, create variations from all attributes, go, okay. Look for the okay button again. Now I can go. So 1 hour is 100. 2 hours is 175. I don't know if you would actually do this. And 3 hours is, again, I'm going for the price, 250. I'm going to save that and update like you would. Come back here. What do you think? What's the vote? Doing 100 and 250. I want 3 hours of time. That's 250. I want 2 hours of time. 175. So there, that's kind of the power. Yeah, keeping them under this idea of, and I changed it. I added the category called services. In this particular case, so additional information, I'm sure there's a checkbox that says include the additional information of the fact that there's variables. And there is a whole review process too. Well, I don't think we need to go into right now, but you can turn this on and off, and you can take reviews. If somebody were to review you, you get the opportunity to approve it, but then you can collect reviews for your products, and then those go into a whole category that might be my best reviewed products as a way of sorting things because of people who are now buying and reviewing products. So I think in terms of adding products, that was plenty. Judith Ann, if you want to take it from here, and then we can come back to some specific things on the back end. We can show a little bit on the reporting side, and whatever questions popping up. So I don't want to eat too much into that. So you want to take it from here?
Sure.
Awesome. So you can grab the screen, right?
No, you've got the slides.
Okay. Oh, that's right. You're going to do, so then I will do that.
I'll just tell you when to change them.
You got it. See it okay?
Nope. Well, I see that, but
Yep,
not me.
she's number 11. She's the next slide.
Yeah, no, I just want to make sure that.
There we go.
Yeah,
Yep.
me too.
All righty. Well, that's the website that I'm working on, the National Association of Productivity and Organizing Consultants. And on this particular site, we have a mixture of traffic coming in. We have the general public that's looking just for articles on our site, or maybe they're looking for the directory. We have members, and our members come from Connecticut, Rhode Island, and the Springfield area of Massachusetts. And then we have 2 conferences where we're taking registrations. So those are basically the traffic that's coming into our website. And on it, I have placed 14 products. Most of these products are virtual, except for 2 that we've done, and they're only on the members only page. We purchased a large shipment of face shields last week, and we asked the members to go in and order the size that they wanted and how many they wanted, and I will show you those slides shortly. So those were the only 2 that were not necessarily virtual, but I handled them as if they were virtual because we were not shipping directly to the organizers, directly to the members, but the shipment was coming to me and I was going to distribute them. So for the conferences, well, no, I skipped one, membership. We have 4 levels of membership: a regular member, business partner, emeritus, status, and a student. And the regular member and business partner have 2 different levels, new and renewed. Our membership runs from October to October. However, a new member can join at any time during the year, and those fees are prorated. So I will show you how we went about prorating them. Conferences have attendees, sponsors, and vendors, and the attendees are either NAPO members or they're non-NAPO members. So there's just 2 price points there. Sponsors have 3 price points, and then the vendors just have 1. Each one of those we need to keep track of separately. So we've set up categories for each one different. Unfortunately, I spent many hours over the last 2 years creating all the back end that Peter just showed you for the conferences, the attendees, the sponsors and vendors. And then after I have all these pages set up with the correct prices, the correct dates and everything, they were both canceled. So it leaves me with plenty of time to help co-host today's WordPress. So Ray asked me, how easy is WooCommerce for a beginner? And that I really, after watching what Peter just went through, I feel like I'm really, really lucky because our website was just redesigned 2 years ago. And in that process, they set up WooCommerce for us. So for me, it wasn't that difficult. He had set up all of our membership categories that I gave to him. So then when I wanted to do another product, I went in and I made a duplicate of the membership, knowing that it works very well. So I made a duplicate of that product and then just reworked the duplicate with the information that I needed. So Peter, if you want to go on to the next slide, please.
Yeah. I'm going to see if I can't make this a little.
All righty. Good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So as Peter said, the first thing you need to do is you got to figure out what the product is that you're selling and get the pictures, get the information, and sort of think about how you want it to be laid out and what kind of information. So as Peter showed you earlier, there's really 3 description areas that I use. The first one is the description right under the picture. I wanted the members to know that our logo would be on the face shields. And then there's a description underneath the price, which would tell them that they can order both sides. But Peter, can you move the slide over so that our pictures are not on it?
Oh, actually, you can. That's on your screen, I think.
Can I
Yeah,
get rid of
it's
it?
on Zoom. Yeah. If you get out of full screen mode, it might be easier for her to see.
Okay. I can.
No, I like the full screen better. Anyway, I know what's over there on the right, and does it bother anybody else?
No.
Okay. All right. So right underneath the price, which is $7, it is just telling the buyer that they can take an option. There are 2 options, an 8-inch and a 10.5-inch.
Mm-hmm.
And if they want to buy both, they need to process their order for the 8-inch and then go back and process the order for the 10-inch. So those are drop-down boxes. The other boxes on this form are text boxes, so they can just write a description. So I've asked for the first name and the last name. You'll see that there's a star right behind first name and last name. That means that it's a required box, so I can't have anybody come in and start ordering something and not give me the information that I need. There's not a star at the company name because I really not all of the professional organizers have a company name. The new ones have not. So I did not want to make that required. The city, definitely. I want to make sure I know where they're located. And then we have underneath that the radio buttons. And we have 2 pickup areas, one in Orange and me here in Plainville. So they had to check that. Give us their telephone number and email address just in case something happens to this order. I need to get in touch with them. And then down at the bottom, as Peter showed you, you can buy 1, 2, 3, all the way up any amount you want, and then you add it to the cart. And then the final description, as I said before, was down at the bottom. I am not sure that buyers go that far down, especially when you have a form on the side that is taking up so much room. By the time they get to the add the cart they probably don't go down far enough to see the description. So basically, I'm not going to put too much information there.
Yeah.
And then I test it. And if there's any changes or it doesn't look right, or I need more information or less information, I change it. I test it again, and I test it again, and then I test it all over again until I have it absolutely perfect the way I think it ought to work. And I get 2 or 3 members to go through the whole process all the way through to the payment. And when they say, okay, I can put it live.
Mm-hmm.
Next slide, Peter.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask you real quick on that, Judith?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I think we talked about this a little bit when we were prepping for this. So when you were doing the testing, you said you stop actually at the payment part, right? You stop at the PayPal.
I do, because I know once I got to that screen with PayPal, I know it's going to go through fine for me because PayPal has an account. I have an account with PayPal.
Yeah.
So I need to make sure that other members can get all the way through. So I let them go through. I have done it myself, and then I go back into PayPal and I have to revert it back to a refund. But
yeah, so
or
that's
if I,
one of those little things you don't think about sometimes too. Or another way around that, where I did when I was creating a site was when I was testing, I made the product like $1 or something, or 50 cents, whatever it is. Then you could go through all the way, and it's not as big of a deal. So, but yeah. Something to think of. Thanks.
yeah. Well, I'll tell you on another one. So here is the order form I went through myself. I put my name where I wanted it. Then I hit the button and so now you can see the drop down box where it says size in the 8-inch one. And then if you go to and if there's any questions, just people hop right in because I don't know what you're thinking. Peter, you can go to the next slide. Here is the total order form. You can see that I ordered 5 8-inch ones, and they're $7 a piece. It automatically told me that 7 times 5 is 35. And then I ordered 4 of the 10.5-inch, and they're still $7 because we're buying bulk. We get a really good price. And it adds it all up for me and gives me my little PayPal symbol. When we were doing memberships, we were accepting checks, and that became really complicated. Number one, they can say they're going to pay by a check, but we're really not sure until we get to the post office. And because we're basically we don't have a permanent address. We do use a UPS box, but we don't have a physical address. So we only get to go to pick up our mail once a month, and people say, well, I mailed it a long time ago. You should have had it by now. And it's like, well, we haven't been to pick it up. So I went back and where all of previously what Peter showed you where the payment is and said, no more checks. You pay by PayPal and that's it. So that is the order form and then the shopping cart. And then you just, hit the PayPal button and off you go to PayPal and they handle all the rest for us. Okay, next slide. So this should look familiar because Peter was on this page where the products are. And off onto the right-hand side where I can't see because the pictures are down that side. But anyway, you'll see that I'm using categories for everything because when I go to run reports, I run them by categories. So this is our protective face shield, and we're hoping that we will get our professional organizers back to work next week. All right, so are there any questions? I know you went through that quite a bit, Peter, so
Yeah.
we'll just leave it.
What did you have, when we talked before this, one of the comments you had, and the thing that we said is, it's like other posts. So was that a kind of familiarity for you?
The whole thing it was really easy to use. I mean, it integrated with WordPress. All the screens I was looking at were very similar to WordPress.
Yeah.
The only learning curve was, you know, where does this description show up on the page? And, you know, figuring out how to use variable products and the attributes and the variations, and which I needed to do here for the protective face shield. And I also needed to do it when we ordered a bulk order of t-shirts for everybody, because we do a summer makeover project every summer except for this summer. And I had men's with just the round collar and women's with the V-neck, and I had sizes, small, medium, large, and extra large. So figuring all that out takes a while, but I don't do it enough to know right offhand, although the other products were easy enough to do because they were just simple products.
Yeah.
All righty, next page. So again, this just shows you the product type, simple product versus variable product. I would not be using a group product, although I might think about that. But the one thing that I wanted to show you, which showed up on mine and didn't show up on yours, is the add-ons on the left-hand side. And that is where I get the forms that I want, whether I want a drop-down box or I want the radio buttons where they're going to pick it up. So this is the area, and I can add fields, take away the fields. I can make that form anything that I want, so that I know that I'm getting the information I need when an order is placed.
And is that add-on, I don't know if you know this, Judith or Peter, are those add-ons, is that an additional plugin or something that?
I knew you were going to ask me these questions. I don't have the answer, and I don't have the back end of the site opened up to even look. So
There is. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I would assume it is, because it didn't show up on Peter's.
Yeah. There's definitely an extension by WooCommerce called Product Add-Ons. It looks just like this. It is a subscription. I don't know if you're paying. This is a $49 billed annually plugin, but where you can add fields and text boxes, and just as you just kind of described. So.
We are actually paying for WooCommerce, and that is added into the hosting for us.
Okay.
Because we needed some extra things with it, which is, if you go to the next slide, then I will show you about the sales part. So this too is another add-on where we can prorate our membership, and I can set this up to run, say, on the screen you'll see it's for the 1st of July to the 1st of October. We prorate by the quarter, and I set it up yearly. I set it up for a very specific category, a very specific product with a very specific fixed price. I hit save, and that's it. I don't have to think about a member coming in a different quarter than what our membership drive is. It just automatically does it. I love WordPress. I love the automatic part of everything. So I've set this up for professional members, and so there's 4 different levels of pricing for that. I've set it up for business partners. There's 4 different levels of pricing. I've set it up for the registrants on the conference. They get an early bird price, a regular price, and a late bird price. Because those that wait until the last 2 weeks before the conference, when we've already ordered the food and the little tchotchke stuff we're giving everybody, and then all of a sudden we end up with 10 more people. And so I think what we were planning to do this year is just tell them there was only 150 seats, and they were going fast. So we tried to get everybody in, but little did I know we weren't even going to do it. Although with Zoom, we are going to run the conference on the same day that we told everybody we would. We're going to have one guest speaker, and the fee will be minimal because there's no food or anything involved in it. So they're still going to get something this year. They just don't know what it is yet. And I don't have the product set up for it. So setting up, sales or prorated membership or early bird specials is fairly easy. And if you don't change the prices and you don't change the dates, then from year to year to year, then it's all there. It's all set up for me. And okay, last slide. One of the questions you asked me the other day was, what kind of reports do we get? Basically, I run reports according to the category that I've set up. Each product has a separate category, but you can set it up by how many orders you have, what sales you have, who are the customers. Stock I don't worry about because most of mine are virtual. But you'll see on the left-hand side, right under WooCommerce, is the dashboard, the orders. You can click on the orders. Of course, this is not live, it's just a screenshot. But one of the add-ons that we have is notification, and that became really important to me because any product you sell, the email of that sale goes to the email address that is registered on your site. And that is not going to work because I don't want a gazillion emails coming into me for everything. So we did add another add-on for the notification, and I can tell what category, what product is going to a different email. So for the hoarding conference that we do for the hoarding working group, the email registers go directly to them. I have nothing to do with it. I'm just giving them my site as sort of a holding area for them to take on registrations. But I'm not going to handle anything else after that. The conference that I do for the organizers, that goes to somebody else too. I don't need to handle that. I've got enough doing the back end of the website and working on WordPress that they can handle the products and the emails that we do get. So there's a good level of communication between WooCommerce and the person who set up the site, or to a person you want to get to it. The product for the face shields, all those went to another member who actually had to place the order and direct the shipments to where they were supposed to go. She got all the emails, she took care of all that stuff. I just took care of setting up the back end. So one of the questions Ray asked me the other day was, what were some of the pain points for WooCommerce? And I'll just tell you, the learning curve was about as painless as can be. I mean, there were just a few things that I needed to sort of scout around and even Google or go back onto the WooCommerce site and figure it out. But basically, if I'm going to put up a new product, it's not too different than the products that I already have up there. So I just make a duplicate and redo the product, and I'm ready to go. And then the other thing was, he wanted to know what the online purchasing experience is for the customers. And that I'm really concerned about. And I test and test and test again. And I do not put it live until I know that it is perfect. And maybe that's why I'm a professional organizer. I have this little level of perfection that it had to be done. But the last thing I need is to put up a product and then have people send out emails saying it's not working. So that's it for me. Any questions? Ray, with any questions come in? Nobody interrupted. So.
No, we don't have anything through the chat. This was great. I think that was, I mean, just I know I've heard this already from you before when we were talking prepping for this, but it really was just it's good to hear a real world experience of it. And I'm glad, like you said, that it's not, I think it's once you're familiar with WordPress, as Peter said, WooCommerce is very familiar in that sense. I think what does make it complicated is more of, there's a lot of options in there, you know, so it's a very specialized plugin for WordPress, but all the complexities they're not technical complexities, like I brought up earlier. They're really complexities of setting up a shop, you know. So if you did this physically somewhere else, you weren't using, you know, a website, you still would need to understand all those things like pricing, etc. So that's more of it, you know, than the tool itself. So,
well, I would imagine that when you're going to sit down and work with somebody to set WooCommerce on their site, it is a whole lot of planning and visualizing in your mind what exactly it's going to look like at the end. I have a parameter that I work in, but I still need to know about the product and what kind of information do we need.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, the setup, the hardest parts are, just as you described, you know, kind of really the planning. And there is that initial setup that, I mean, you watched me miss the thing that I did, because guess what I do? I set that up a while ago, and I'm just making a copy for new products. It's the same type of thing now. It's just, you know, it's a new product, but the setup is the same. So I just copied the other one, and I have since not paid attention enough to know what Ray walked me through. So thank you, Ray. But yeah, once you get past a certain point, and again, what's nice with WordPress is everything's there for us to try. But yeah, I mean, we've got a little bit of time. Ray, you know, if there were no questions, I mean, we could show a little bit more on the configuration side in case people just want to see a little bit of those things. Because yeah, shipping is a little scary. The payment gateways is a big deal.
let me tell you what I'm gonna do is I know I had everyone on mute as well too while you guys were talking, so I'm just gonna unmute everyone now. So any questions from folks, or how about just other people using, so Bill, I just saw you came on. Bill had asked a question which I don't really know the answer to, which is around, from an SEO perspective, you know, if you're trying to get people to find your product, then you're into this whole other level of complexity of making sure that your products are named and that taxonomy is set up properly as well, so that, you know, it doesn't just say product ID 1234, that actually says, like I think Peter's example said Akita paintings or whatever. You know, you want to think about keywords as well in your product names, just like you do any other post. So Bill, I don't know, do you have anything to toss in terms of experience you've had with e-commerce sites, either around like measuring or SEO perspective around WooCommerce?
So there are additional things that you want to set up in Google Analytics in order to get more detailed information. Like you can actually see how people interact with your cart. So you can see how many people put something in a cart, how many people viewed the cart, how many people went to the next level where they filled out the first screen, how many people clicked buy. I mean, it's pretty standard plugin. I mean, it's probably more like a platform than a plugin, but I was shocked. I actually set up something I wanted to learn, and set up something I thought I was going to become an Amazon reseller, until they cut the prices by, I don't know, like 80% last month. But there was a plugin to basically integrate with Amazon. So all you had to do was put the plugin in and then put, you know, some information there. And the button was basically, instead of it said buy now, it said check price, and it went right to the Amazon product. And I would have got the commission for anything they bought in the next 24 hours.
Right.
Not even the product that I sent them to.
Yeah.
But, you know, it took me 2 or 3 hours to really get comfortable with it.
Yeah.
So I had that question I've asked a couple times. it was more of an SEO question where if you can imagine going to a site that had lots of different products and categories and subcategories, as you start to navigate, you start to see those, I guess they call them tables of products.
Yep.
And from an SEO standpoint, you really want content on the page of those product categories. And besides like the big category of every product, I couldn't figure out how to add that paragraph above the list of
And
products.
I saw, Judith, I think on your screenshot, you had Yoast SEO plugin in there, and yeah, that's the thing. WooCommerce has been around for so long. Some of these plugins, like I don't recall, but I know there's some plugins that have special features for WooCommerce as well too. That they work, or it's back to you want a theme, you want themes that play well with WooCommerce, and then plugins as well too. You want to use plugins that if you're doing something specific for WooCommerce, you want ones that either came from the WooCommerce store or ones that have been around for a long time.
Yeah, you definitely want to pick a theme that is WooCommerce ready or friendly or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
Because when those pages get built, the cart and all that, you want it to look exactly like your site. I mean, I didn't have to touch anything. I didn't have to touch any coding at all.
Right. You're talking about the specific thing you're talking about is, when you add categories, there is a description, but as it says, both for posts and for products, it says the description is not prominent by default. However, some themes may show it. And and I know that I've had one customer that it was a plugin that said, I think it was called category themes for some reason. Category descriptions as a plugin that then gave you that value and then allowed you to use it on the category page. So if you had, these are all archive pages and you go to a category, in that, whatever you save there, and you could put HTML, so you could actually have it pretty extensive, but that's what showed up at the top of them now where all the categories were. So, but you're right, is it the data's there, but does the plugin or the theme or the, use that? And now as we get into even more capabilities with the blocks and being granular and being able to say, I want my short description here, or Judith Ann I want my long description is way down here. I want it in the column below the image because my form's next to it, and then everyone can see everything.
Yeah.
And you can do that. Like I'm using the Beaver Builder, has a WooCommerce aspect to it that allows me to theme that and do just that. Put it in 2 columns and put my, I just putting together a new site that was the same e-commerce site, completely redesigned product page, and I was able. The difference between how I did it 3 years ago and how I did it now was night and day. It was.
I think that's true on everything. What we did 3 years ago,
Oh my gosh.
we're doing it different today.
But yeah, when you get into this and you start looking under the WooCommerce settings, and you get into that area where under each setting there's a lot of little check boxes that you might not see, that all of a sudden it allows you to do, it's the inventory control, and then there's the shipping, or don't ship to this country, or all these little things. It's all there. Once you set it up, unless you need to change something, it really you don't have to worry about it.
Peter, in that setting page, there's
Yeah.
also a part where you can put the emails after somebody orders something. What do you want say in that email to them? There's an awful lot on that page, the setting page, and for anybody who's going to do this, they really need to go in and start looking around before they even begin to build their product sites.
Yeah.
The one thing that I struggled with was the images, because I didn't realize that the images had to be a specific size to look nice in the grid. And I, basically built a whole bunch of products, and then the grid just looked horrible.
Yeah. There are settings for that. So when you upload an image, WordPress will take it, and depending on what your image settings are for just regular pages and posts, it'll generate your thumbnail, your medium size, your large size, whatever. WooCommerce has its own list of those. It has your catalog image, it has your product thumbnail, it has your major image. So when you install WooCommerce and start adding images, there's like, I don't know, like 6 additional image sizes that get loaded, and being sensitive to how they're being used and which ones are cropping versus which one are just going to show the whole image and things like that. There is an image aspect to it. Under emails, yeah, there's a lot of choices with the emails. There's a certain level of what you can customize, and if you really need to customize it, you're still having to go into the template files, like those little PHP files. But through through WooCommerce settings, emails, you'll see the whole list of all the emails, right? So new order, canceled order, failed order, order on hold, processing order. All of these generated email out to either, to the user, or to the admin.
Yeah, and just maybe wrapping things up a little bit too. So this is, I mean, kind of going back to some of our other presentations too. When you're doing e-commerce, it does, not that any site isn't important, but it does add another layer of kind of importance to things like, being secure, having HTTPS, having backups and all that. Because if, some of these sites, if that site is down, that's real dollars,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as we're running out of time, this is a very good point, Ray, that you're touching on, which is the whole topic of the payment gateway, which is if you're taking payment, yes, your site needs to be secure, but you're also not taking credit card information on your own website. You're using a payment gateway like a PayPal, like a Stripe. They're both the easiest to use. I love Stripe. I think Stripe has made actual feeling like you're using a credit card, but all that transaction is being done on their site. You are not capturing any, credit card information, and that's important because that enters into a whole category of, data security and all. So
Cool.
So it also is an issue with your analytics as well, because someone's leaving your site and coming back.
Yeah. So depending on how it's handled, some will go out and come back and carry that cookie over. Others will, like Stripe, you have choices where you have it almost like as in a frame. You have just the code and it only is sending the encrypted data through your account. So that's what I like, because you're staying on the site. It feels very the PayPal classic, where you leave the site, you go out to it and come to it. And real quick too, Bill, also is the whole topic, and this is a whole another thing with schema, right? So this idea that products, there's a schema, there's something that says this is a product title, this is its price, its review, all of these little pieces of data. A lot of this is now becoming more automatic depending on which tool sets you're using, that it's writing those, but those are all valuable for SEO and when they start really looking at a product as a product versus a page of content.
And where schema comes in, I'll defer to Bill on this, but where schema comes in as well is like these days, if you're searching for something in Google, Google has its own product results thing, the shopping page that shows up. So if you've described your product well and it happens to show up there, I mean, that is a great shortcut to get people to see it, to see your product too. So that's,
and the review stars is a schema.
Yep. So,
Yep.
Well, I think we're out of time. Thank you very much to our presenters. Judith, wonderful here. Real experience. Peter, as always. Thanks everyone else for joining us. As I said, I'll send out information afterwards with the recording. And then join the Facebook group if you're not a member of the Facebook group already, and we'll let you know what our next topic is. So,
yeah, and if you have questions, just ask.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody. It
Good
was
to see everybody.